Thank you guys for coming. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Guro Conrad here, and it's time to look at another of the basic strikes. This time it's the circular strike, which we call bilog for circle, or in the Spanish term that was adopted, redondo, which means round. So, circle starts in one place and ends in that same spot. So what we're going to do is we can do this from either the forehand or the backhand side. For now we'll start on the forehand side, and I'll turn this way so you can see it. So if this is my starting position, my strike is going to reach out, strike the target, and it's going to make a circle and come back. Now for safety, and in case you might have furniture or a pet or a roommate down below behind you, be careful on this end. You might hit something. So we can actually truncate that a little bit just so we're not swinging wildly behind us. But if this is a really heavy weapon and I'm swinging through this, there's going to be a little bit of follow through, so you want to be aware of where the weapon is going behind you. The other thing is, on the forehand side, I can be with my weapon side forward, but there is a small danger that if I'm swinging hard and getting careless, or maybe the opponent knocks this just slightly off arc, I'll hit myself in the shin. We don't want that. So to give ourselves a little clearance, we're going to put our opposite side forward, our cross lead forward. So as I do this, I'm just going to create a circle and come back to the starting point. Circle, come back to the starting point. So I'm going to face the camera again and make a circle, come back to the starting point. Circle, come back to the starting point. Now, my personal starting point is around here because I like this to be in kind of a guarding and ready position, but no one says you can't finish up here, but now this is kind of out of place and out of play and needs to move before it can protect me or strike again. So for now, just make a circle and come back. Now, if we work around that same clock mentality, is I can go from 12 o'clock to 11 o'clock to 9 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So here's a 12 o'clock line, and here's an 11 o'clock line. So it starts in the starting spot, and now my circle, instead of going on this plane, starts to travel on this plane. So I can make the circle this way, and cutting at 11 o'clock. Takes a little more effort now to go to 9. It's kind of this weird loop. Where you have to watch out for is coming across this way and hitting yourself in the back of the head, so don't do that. But come from our starting position, and it's going to loop around and cut. Technically it's still bilog, because it is a circular strike there. And then we can also cut on this 7 or 8 o'clock line, and coming up this way. Right. Use as much body mechanics. At this point, when I switch to this, to the 7 o'clock line, I can go back to having the right foot forward. Remember that there's no standardized way to have your feet. We can be in either weapon side forward or cross lead. Does not matter. Right, so let's work the forehand bilog on the left side. So facing this way, here's my starting point, swing, strike, come forward. Be careful that when you swing you don't lean your face forward. You can stand straight up, again switching our legs so our right foot is forward, and I can deliver from a nice comfortable standing stance and make that circle. Right, as I face the camera, now I'm going to cut at 1 o'clock and making the circle, and 3 o'clock and making the circle, and I can cut at 5 o'clock and make the circle. Now you might ask, what am I doing with this hand? Right now, my habit was to hold this here at center line, because one theory is we want to have this ready in case it needs to become active. But if my opponent is really far out, to the point where all we're going to be able to hit each other with is the end of our weapon, this doesn't need to be here. A lot of times, if you look at where in fencing, where's this arm up for counterbalance, right? It's not in play. Other times it might be, I'll switch this to my right hand, so this feels a little more natural. This might be where they're holding a secondary weapon. So as this is firing here, this is ready to draw. A lot of the Philippine constabulary and modern troops will sometimes carry a blade in one hand, a long blade in one hand, and a firearm in the second. So as they're swinging out here at long range, this hand is ready on that firearm to deploy if they need to, right? So let's move on to the backhand side. Backhand side, our starting position is going to be on our opposite shoulder. So from here, this is the starting point. It's going to reach out, make the circle, and come back. Reach out, make the circle, come back to starting. Reach out, make the circle. Now this can be done really small with just a wrist motion. It gets out there quicker, but not as much power. So this takes longer, but has more reach and power. So use what you need to when the situation occurs. So making a circle right now, I'm going to split the difference and go a little bit of wrist and a little bit of arm and making just a nice circle that goes here. I'm trying to end this right back on my shoulder, on my arm, below my shoulder and above my elbow, because the worst thing that'll happen, it's only going to take a few times for you to learn this, is you swing through and then you pop yourself in the elbow, and it sucks. So try and find this as your starting point and making the circle, making the circle, making the circle. Facing the camera, it's nice and vertical, nice and sharp, right down that line. I should be able to do this in a doorway. Right? I can also cut this at the 1 o'clock line. I can cut this at the 3 o'clock line. Again, taking a little more time. Got to watch out for getting a hit in the back of the head here. And I can even go to this weird kind of awkward 5 o'clock line, where it's kind of zooming around before it makes that circle back up. So it's not quite a circle, but you know, it's the way it is. So left side, I'm going to start with our vertical. Nice and vertical. We'll go 3 reps each. 3. Moving back to the camera so you can see this. Nice and sharp and vertical. And then we can cut at our 11 o'clock line, putting a little bit of an angle on it. We can also go on our 9 o'clock line and making it horizontal. Now the horizontal can be at the waist, horizontal can be at the neck, horizontal can be at the knee. Any of those will work, right? And then we can also come in that awkward, oblong, weird round thing that comes up the line. Not my favorite of the strikes, especially with my left hand, but that's why you train it so it gets better. So to recap, circles start and end at the same point. So if I'm on my forehand side, chamber, fire my strike and come back, regardless of what line I'm firing on. On the backhand side, starting position comes out. I can extend as far as I need to, depending on how much range I need to use, right? Starts and ends, starts and ends. So that is bilog, or circle, in Spanish, redondo, or we can just call it the circular strike.